right. Okay, so at 10 a.m. this morning, the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity released March 2021 labor statistics for the state of Florida and its sub-state areas, including all metropolitan areas, counties, and large cities. These data were produced by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics through a federal-state cooperative agreement with the DEO, Bureau of Workforce Statistics and Economic Research. These data were collected through a combination of employer and household surveys, administrative records, and statistical modeling techniques. This morning, I will walk you through the details of the data release, starting with the household survey. The current population survey is used to estimate Florida's unemployment, total labor force, and labor force participation rate under the Local Area Unemployment Statistics Program. Since these statistics are based on a survey of households, they capture information about individuals, not jobs, and they are calculated by place of residence, not place of work. Florida's seasonally adjusted unemployment rate in March 2021 was 4.7%. This represented 475,000 jobless individuals out of a labor force of 10,170,000. Florida's March 2021 unemployment rate was unchanged from the February 2021 rate and down 0.2 percentage point from the March 2020 rate. Florida's March unemployment rate was lower than the national rate of 6%. Florida's labor force was 10,170,000 in March 2021, up 46,000 or 0.5% from the 1 month ago level. This was down 460,000 or 4.3% from the March 2020 level. In March 2021, Miami-Dade County had the highest unemployment rate at 8.2%, followed by Sumter County at 6.6%. Monroe County had the state's lowest unemployment rate with 3.3%, followed by St. Johns and Wakulla counties at 3.6% each. Job creation data for Florida is derived from the Current Employment Statistics, or CES, survey conducted by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The CES survey collects data from up to 20,000 Florida businesses and establishments each month to measure jobs by industry across the state. Since these statistics are based on a survey of employers, they measure counts of jobs, not individuals, and they capture characteristics of employers such as industry and place of work. Total non-agricultural employment rose to 8,553,600 jobs in March 2021. This was up 32,200 jobs, or 0.4% from February 2021. This figure is down 445,800 jobs from a year ago, an over-the-year decline of 5%. Florida's private sector non-agricultural employment was 7,473,100 jobs in March 2021, up 32,900 jobs, or 0.4% from February 2021. Total private employment was down 395,700 jobs from March 2020. This is an over-the-year decline of 5%. Remember that it is better to look at longer-term trends than just a few months. As of March 2021, the labor force employment level is at 95.9% of what it was in February 2020, and CES is at 94.3%. These two series are on a similar recovery path. Typically, the CES employment is lower than the labor force employment by about 11%. In the months of April to July 2020, that gap got noticeably smaller, anywhere from 4 to 7%. But as of March 2021, this gap is back to 11.8%. 8 out of 10 major industry sectors in Florida gained jobs over the month. All major industries lost jobs over the year. Leisure and hospitality gained 9,100 jobs over the month, but still remains 236,000 jobs below last March's level. Financial activities industry gained 900 jobs over the month and was only down 0.4% below last March's level. The two industries to lose jobs over the month were government and manufacturing. The March 2021 seasonally adjusted local area data showed that 18 of the 24 metro areas in Florida had over-the-month job gains. The Miami Beach, Kendall metro area gained the most jobs with 6,900, and Port St. Lucie grew the fastest at a rate of 1.3%. Other metro areas with notable job growth were the Orlando-Kissimmee Sanford MSA with 6,400 jobs and the Jacksonville MSA with 5,100 jobs. As it becomes available, I like to share additional data sets to provide a broader context of what's happening in the labor market. The Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, or JOLTS, is conducted by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to estimate the number of job openings, hires, and separations. BLS recently released fourth quarter monthly JOLTS estimates for Florida. The blue line in the chart represents job openings, which includes all open or advertised positions in Florida. Openings reached a low point in June 2020, dropping below 300,000 for the first time since 2016. As of December 2020, job openings have increased to 390,000, or up 102,000 openings, or 35.4% since June, the June low point, but this is still slightly below the first quarter level. The green line on this chart represents hires, defined as all additions to employment payroll in the state. Hires finished the fourth quarter at 327,000, an increase of 2,000 job hires, or 0.6% from the end of third quarter 2020. The red line on this chart represents separations, which includes quits, layoffs, discharges, and all other separations from payroll employment. March, April, and May of 2020 saw a combined total of over 1.7 million separations, peaking in April at 602,000 separations in 1 month. As of December 2020, separations have decreased to 306,000, and average fourth quarter separations are lower than any quarter since second quarter 2018. And that concludes my remarks for this morning, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, guys, we'll open it up for questions. Please enter your questions in the chat feature and we will get to them as soon as possible. We'll start with Nilda's question. She asks, are there any drivers of the 4.3% decrease in labor force that we can see?
Hi, Nilda. So good question. So I think we are still experiencing the effects of the pandemic, and this of course varies across the state and will certainly vary by those who are impacted by different industries. So as individuals are feeling more confident to come back into the labor market, they will, and we're seeing that happen, but we're just not quite back to the level that we were at the beginning of last year.
Greg Angel has a few questions. I think he's referring to the previous, like the slide you just got off of. Does this include newly created jobs, and are people being called back to work?
Yes, good question. So it's going to include both. So when we're looking at the hires data, this is going to include, so as I mentioned, these are all additions to payroll employment from the previous month or quarter. So it would include anybody who was hired back, but it could include new jobs as well. We don't have that distinction in the data set in particular. And then the other part of your question where we're talking about the decline in 5%, yet we've had 11 consecutive months of job growth. So absolutely. So we are seeing continued job growth over the month. But what I'm referring to is when you look back at the level that we were at the same time last year, where while we've been gaining jobs for 11 months, we're not quite back to where we were prior to the pandemic, when we were at the lowest levels of unemployment we've seen, the highest level of employment we've ever had in the state. We're just not quite back there. And largely that's due to the leisure and hospitality industry not quite getting back to where we were.
Okay, he's got one more question. Beyond the graphs and data, what is your takeaway from the data, and what it is saying about hospitality jobs in Central Florida and the Orlando region?
So overall, my takeaway, and I think what we're seeing in the data, are that we are continuing to see job growth. So businesses are adding jobs back across the state, across industries, but it's not coming back as we had a huge decline very fast early last year. So it's going to take time for that to grow back and get back to those pre-pandemic levels. But we are seeing that continue to happen, and I think at a solid, sustained rate. At the same time we're seeing those jobs being added, we're seeing people come back into the labor market and connecting to those jobs, which is exactly what we want to see and what we would expect to see in a recovery. What's happening right now is that it's been sped up. So both the decline and the recovery are much faster than what we've experienced in previous recessions.
Thank you. We have a question from Joe Burns. He says the Orlando Kissimmee Sanford MSA seems to have improving job markets. What accounts for this?
So as people continue to feel more comfortable going out, receiving services, going to businesses, going out to eat, exploring entertainment options, then we're going to see continued job growth in those areas. So as people are continuing to get vaccinated, as people are more comfortable with all of the different mitigation efforts that are continuing to go on, and they feel more comfortable going out and participating in economic activity, then we're going to continue to see that growth. And so I think you're seeing that in all areas across the state.
So Christopher Heath asks, are we still on track for full employment by the end of the year?
So that's a tricky question, but I know what you mean. So typically what we consider to be full employment is when the unemployment rate is at about 4 to 5%. And I think estimates vary on that. So we are actually, but by that definition, we're well within that range. But I think what we want to continue to see is to have people continuing to move back into the labor market. The timing of that, I won't give an estimate on, but I think we're just continuing to see steady increases in our labor force participation, and that's a healthy sign and exactly what we want to see.
Okay, last call for questions. Josh Rojas asks, woo, hold on. All restaurants are hiring and can't find their open positions. Any idea why the restaurant workers aren't coming back? Do we think that will change now that vaccinations are open to everyone?
So we don't have any hard data on that particular issue. I think we are hearing that from employers that they have job openings, but they're not having candidates come and apply for the job, or they're not coming and staying. A lot of that's anecdotal. We don't unfortunately have a particular data set to point to. When you look at the JOLTS data that I just pointed out, we are kind of back in the situation that we were prior to the pandemic, where we were having a similar issue, where there were more job openings than there were hirings happening and people actively looking for those jobs. So it's a similar situation. There are probably a variety of factors contributing to that. But I would expect that as people continue to feel more comfortable engaging in the labor market, going back to work, that includes getting vaccinated, then yes, then we would see employers having an easier time filling those positions. But I will remind you that we did have a very similar situation prior to the pandemic. So if we were to go right back to where we were in terms of all levels, employers were having those same issues.
So Christina asks a similar question. The hospitality and leisure are struggling to hire back at fully staffed in the Deltona DB Ormond MSA. Is this a trend statewide, and how does it affect the numbers?
So yes, again, like I just said, we don't have anything in particular, any hard data to point to that. We're certainly hearing from businesses across the state who are expressing the same concerns. But the way this will show up in the numbers is kind of what we just saw, where we have a lot of job openings, and job openings are increasing, and the number of hires are not quite keeping up with that. So that's something, as I mentioned, that JOLTS survey data set is something that we get quarterly. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that, and it will hopefully shed some light on what we're experiencing as we continue to evaluate it. In the monthly numbers, what we want to continue to see are the labor force numbers increasing and getting back to where we were back in February of 2020. And so the closer we get to that with a sustained low unemployment, then that will show that people are connecting to jobs in the labor market.
Okay, Joe asks, he says he knows that Sumter is very small compared to other markets, but do you know why its jobless rate is second worst? And he also asks, are we seeing the loss of cruise industry jobs in these data?
So I don't have the details of Sumter County right in front of me, but we will absolutely look into that and get that back to you today. So happy to do that for you. For the cruise industry, so yes, I mean they're going to be captured. Again, I don't have those specific details, but we can look into that and provide you some specifics on how cruise industry related jobs are going to be impacted or have been impacted and show up in these numbers.
All right, thank you. That looks like that's all of our questions. I appreciate all of you joining us today. We'll see you for next month's economic data release call. It's scheduled for Friday, May the 21st. Again, if you have any additional questions, please email us at media@deo.myflorida.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Again, thank you all for joining, and we will see you next month. Oh, we will also, one more thing, we'll also post this video at the bottom of the press release that we sent out earlier today. So you can find the video of this presentation at the bottom of the press release. Have a great one. Hope everyone has a great weekend.